I did have a good weekend. My parents came up and visited me. So we had a nice lunch at home. Yeah. How was the formal?
Really good.
Was there an after party?
Yes. And it was.
Okay, I won't ask what happened at the after party.
You don't want to know. Pardon? Did you do the after party right? I did do the after party right. Did you forget everything? I remember.
All right. So year 12s. I want to go over some very important information for your SAC next week. So it is all on Teams under a folder called SAC information. I've also changed it last night. So if you saw it on the weekend, just download it again. I'm going to go through it now. And I'm recording this as well. So, a couple of weeks ago, I handed out a piece of paper telling you some stuff about the SAC. And this doesn't seem to be loading. So, I'll go to my copy. All right. So, you all got this piece of paper last week. Yes? You remember that? Okay. So, a few changes. So, on the digital copy on Teams, there is now a second page with the changes. So, here are the changes. All right. I've decided that you don't need 10 minutes of reading time. You only need 5 minutes. So, this means you get a bit more time to write. The other thing is, I've told you that there are some sections of the textbook that I'm not going to test you on. Okay? So, normal distribution, not on the SAC. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sampling, not on the SAC. We didn't even do it, but it's just listed in your textbook as a thing. And seasonal indices, which you covered last lesson, is not on the SAC. Okay. So everything else is fair game. Okay. And even though 5E relies on 5D, there is a part that relies on seasonal indices. You obviously won't need to do that because 5D is not on the SAC. Okay?
Oh, hooray. So 5E is also not on
No, 5E is on the SAC, just not the seasonal parts. So that will become clear because I'm teaching that today.
Oh, no.
Okay? All right. So that's on Teams. The next thing I want to go through is what the SAC looks like. So when you get your SAC, you're going to get 2 booklets. One booklet will have the questions. The other booklet will just have lined paper for you to write on. So right now, there's no questions here. So I'll give you some data, I'll give you some questions, and I'll tell you the total for that section. Okay? It's a sample. Okay. All right. Okay. So part 1, 10 marks. Part 2, 15 marks. Part 3, 15 marks. Okay. Obviously, this isn't the real SAC. The real SAC has actual data and actual questions. No. No one will get anything because there's nothing to do. Okay, so that's the task book. It's going to look like this. So just please remember, I'm not telling you how many marks there are for a particular question, just the total, okay? All right, and that's VCA's requirements. All right. Harry, are you focusing? You are now. Okay, and then the answer book. Please pay attention to this part. So you're going to do all your writing in this booklet. There are going to be some parts on the SAC where I ask you to draw some graphs. Okay? So I'm just being upfront with you now. You're going to draw a few graphs for me on the SAC. So don't come to me after next Tuesday and say, Mr. Chu, what was that? Why do I have to draw a graph? I'm telling you. Okay? So you don't have to rule your own axes or grid lines. I'm going to give you the grid lines. Yes, Kaylin.
Can it be just like a rough sort of graph?
Sorry?
Will it be like a y-axis and x-axis with the numbers on it?
No. Kaylin has asked a very good question. So I hope you're listening for this. Kaylin has asked, will there be numbers on the axes and will the axes be labeled? The answer is no. You will have to do that yourself. Okay? And there will be marks awarded for that as well. So if you give me a graph without labeled axes or without a scale, you're going to lose marks on the SAC. Yes, Tom? 10 by 15 grid. Okay? All right. Are you going to do your graphs in pen?
Yeah.
No. But I'm going to give you some spare plots anyway. Okay? Yes, Tom?
What's 140 times 15?
2100?
There's 2100 little squares in it.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Okay.
I'm just not working all that.
All right. I might be wrong though. This is what your answer book looks like after the graphs. That's it, okay? Lined paper. So you're gonna write your answers like that. So you'll need to number the responses yourself. Yes, Tim.
Is this going to be like back when you're doing that plan, you have the questions and you just like color in A, B, C? Is it like that but with writing instead? It's like you have the questions and one you write on the other.
Yeah, so you'll get two booklets. One booklet will have just the questions, and then you'll answer everything in the other booklet. Okay? Good question.
Do we just do the multiple choice? Like, is there multiple choice?
No multiple choice. There's no multiple choice here.
No, I wasn't sure
Yeah.
if there was multiple.
Yeah. So good question. There's no multiple choice questions. So as I will say at the end of this class, when you start studying for your SAC, you should do this booklet and probably prioritize exam 2 first, because that's the non-multiple choice. Okay? I do expect that you will have looked at these questions when you sit the SAC. So if you don't open this booklet before next week, you might get a rude shock when you sit the SAC. Okay? All right. Are there any questions about the SAC next Tuesday? SAC is open book, so you can bring in everything. Okay, multiple books, textbook, bound reference, workbook, you can bring it all in. I think I'll just wait until it's clear that everyone is listening and paying attention. Okay, thank you. So, this is the end of chapter 5. This is the last part. Okay? It's also quite a long part, and because I'm not really assessing a lot of it on the SAC, I'm just going to outline it for you. We're not going to do a question in detail. I just want to present some basic ideas. You do need it for the exam, but we'll have time at the end of the year to pick this up again. All right? So just try to follow along and understand the main ideas of what I'm trying to present today. Let's see if we can remember what we did last lesson. So you might remember I introduced this quantity called the seasonal index. Yeah, that was last week. And I made a distinction between the original or the seasonal value and the de-seasonalized value with the seasonality removed. So this could absolutely be a question not on the SAC, but at the end of the year. You could get a question like this. And this is actually a very easy question, provided that you know what to do.
Isn't it
No, right. No. You.
Yes. So Jazz has jumped in. Okay. This formula is given on your formula sheet at the end of the year. So you don't need to memorize it.
Do we get a formula?
You do get a formula sheet, but the formula sheet is very bare. I would say almost useless. Hmm? Yeah. The formula sheet will have less than 15 formulas for the whole year. So it's not very much. Okay. All right, so is this okay?
Yeah.
Does this look familiar from the last lesson?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So we did all of this last lesson. Now I want to pose a question that's going to lead us into this next part. So the blue line is this data. Okay? So this is the original series here. So you'll notice that there's a regular peak and a regular trough or a minimum. And what we want to explore today is, can we predict what is going to happen in the future?
Trend upwards.
Yep. So you're seeing, yes, so the orange line, that's the deseasonalized series, which we also calculated last lesson. If I were to continue the blue line, what are you expecting to happen?
It slowly increases, but it keeps going in the season.
A spike quickly up.
Yeah, so we're kind of expecting something like this again, right?
Yes.
Not to scale, but something like that, yeah? So today I'm going to give you the tools to do this, and this is actually quite cool. But yeah, how do we do this? Can you think of something that we've already used in this course that allows us to make predictions? A regression line is correct. So we're going to combine linear regression with time series to make predictions. No, that's this lesson. All right, so you can find this in the textbook, but this is a step-by-step process for how to do this. So we've already done the first two steps last lesson. We calculated the seasonal indices and we removed the seasonality. Step 3, fit a trend line or a regression line. So that just means chuck it into your calculator and calculate y equals a plus bx. Okay, so you can do that. You've already done that this year. Part 4, predict. That just means substitute a value of x. And then step 5, re-seasonalize. We'll have to discuss what we mean by that. Maybe you might want to have a think about that in the meantime. But let's just get rolling. And I'll upload this, so don't feel that you need to copy it down. All right, so I've actually done this in Excel, because if we did this with the CAS calculator, it would actually take us almost a whole period to do this question. Yeah, so, which makes me think that it's very unlikely this would come up on your exam in the full form. What they might do is give you one part of the calculation to do, okay? And now, if I wanted to make the SAC really hard, I would have given this to you, but you'll notice that I'm not giving this to you.
Thank you.
Okay? All right? Maybe next year, when you're gone. Okay, so our goal, guys, is to predict just the next data point. So if I go back, you'll see I've got 12 data points here. And my goal is to find summer for year 4. What comes next in the time series? What's our best prediction going to be?
The next one's gonna spike.
Okay, so let's see if that happens once we make that prediction. All right, so all I've done here, is I've put the data into a column, and I've divided by seasonal index, and that's the deseasonalized series, which is in orange. When I get the orange curve after deseasonalizing, what have I removed from the series?
Season.
Right? Deseasonalized means you remove the seasonal components. Okay? All right. Michaela, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Can you stop that? Like now. So we've only got one tool for making predictions, and that's regression, right? It's fitting a straight line. So we need to decide whether we are going to fit a straight line to the blue line or the orange line. So what do you think? Why do you want to fit it to the orange one?
Because that's the
It's
DC
easier
line.
to see the trend.
Doesn't show value, it's more true value.
Yeah, so the seasonality might kind of interfere with our straight line. So it seems to make more sense if we want to make any sort of prediction to use the orange line or the deseasonalized value first. So when I fit a straight line, I'm expected to get something like this. Okay? So we're going to fit a line, not to the original series, but to the deseasonalized series, which is the orange curve. Okay? So I'll circle that. Get rid of that. Oh. Okay. So you can do this on the CAS. You'll notice what I've done here is I've put the trend line on the same graph as the deseasonalized series. So is that what you expect? Okay, why is the orange curve a straight line?
It's deseasonalized.
The blue line is the deseasonalized data.
The trend, it's going up or
It is going up. Why is everything on the orange line a straight line though?
because it's being linearized. Literally.
It's a linear relation. This is y equals a plus bx here. Okay, those are the two numbers that we found on the CAS calculator. Okay, we're using that to make a prediction. Okay, next question to test your understanding of linear regression. Why aren't the deseasonalized values in blue? I'm going to split you up soon if this continues. Why aren't the blue values in the deseasonalized series the same as the orange values?
Because it's not a linear, yes.
Yes, I agree. So Jason has got the right idea. We just need to put it into words.
Just cause it's like doesn't really matter.
It does, because if you can't answer this question, it demonstrates to me that you don't really understand linear regression. That you're just punching buttons on a calculator and you don't really understand what's going on.
That's predicted.
When you get the smart kids.
Because they're predicted.
They're the predicted value.
Orange is the prediction, and blue is the original data. Okay? So orange, which is the trend model.
Pretty sure that's on. Is that Asian orange?
Yes. That's how you call it.
ORA.
Yeah.
Orange.
Sometimes you can spell it orange.
when you say a word and you, like it's a common word.
And it looks strange, right?
Yeah.
That's because the English language is sometimes not consistent.
Dislike is a passion.
Okay, so if I've lost you, I'll try to bring you back. So the blue line is the deseasonalized data, and I'll fit a straight line to the blue curve to get the orange curve. That's it. Okay, so you type the blue data into your CAS, you fit a line, and you get the orange curve.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep.
All right. Okay, so if we do that, you get this column here. And let's say I wanted the next value, which was summer in year 4. I would need to substitute that new time value into that equation. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Or have I lost you?
No, it's fine.
So I'll just draw a picture for you in case I have lost you. Let's say you've got some data. You fit a line to model it. And I want to predict here. What I need to do is find this point on the line. Okay? And I do that by substituting the x value here. All right, so if I do that, I get 1252. Are we finished?
No, because you've got to re-seasonalize it.
Good memory. If you haven't already noticed, whenever I ask are we finished, usually the answer is no.
Yes.
So maybe I need to start tricking you. Okay? So Tom, you want to re-seasonalize this value here.
Yeah.
Do you have a suggestion for how we might do that?
I would say, yeah.
Would you like to share such an idea?
Well, I'm going to guess it has something to do with timing the seasonal index by the trend. Would I be incorrect?
You times the deseasonalized value by the seasonal.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Sorry, you two bombs worth in there.
Very good. So this value. So I know this. I know that this is actually quite a hard class because there's so many concepts floating around. The seasonal value is the original series. That's the one with the peaks and the dips, right? So I want to forecast the value with the peaks and the dips in there. But when I deseasonalize it, I remove the peaks and the dips, and I get this column here. And then I fit a trend. So now I want to go back to the original series. But I've removed the seasonality. So to get the seasonality back, I'm going to need to multiply by the seasonal index. So this value here, which will question mark, is 1.0383 times 1252. Okay. To put it another way, what I've done here is I've said, take this equation and rearrange it. Okay? So this time I want the seasonal value, and I'll get that by multiplying the deseasonalized value times the seasonal index. All right, we're nearly done. So you don't need to do this calculation because you know how to do it. And if you do this, this is what happens. So look at that. It does have the peaks and the troughs. Okay? Now, this takes a couple of minutes in Excel, but this will take a very long time on the CAS calculator. So that's why I haven't gotten you to do it. What I can do is I can upload the Excel spreadsheet to Teams, and you can take a look if you want. But I didn't want us to spend too long on this because the calculations are quite long, and because I'm not assessing it on the SAC, I didn't want to get too bogged down with it. Okay, but if you understand the concepts, you'll be in good shape for the exam. We can always come back to this later in the year. So we've just finished the statistics topic.
Programming.
Okay, so recursion and finance.
Wait, was that 5D or 5E?
5E. Yeah, 5D was seasonal indices, which was last week. Okay, so we've got period 4, a single tomorrow, and a double on Friday. So you've got 4 periods to study for the SAC.
And the weekend.
Okay.
Monday.
Yeah, but class time with me, you've got 4 periods this week. Okay. This is a time when you can ask me for help. All right. So before I release you, this is what I want to make very clear. You need to make very, very good use of class time this week, because as I've gone around and looked at some of your work, I'm just getting the sense that a lot of you aren't up to date, and you may be in serious trouble if you don't get your act together before next week. Okay? I don't think I've written a very hard SAC. I did it in about an hour, and you have 4 hours. So I think it's quite doable, but only if you are well prepared for the SAC. Okay. So your priorities for this week are, number 1, to finish the questions in the work program. I'll just wait. Michaela? Kaylin? We'll just listen to this. So your priorities for this week are to finish the work program and to work through the past exam questions. Okay? So remember, I'm assuming you have looked at this booklet when you sit the SAC. So there are some questions in this booklet that I have not taught you how to do, but I'm assuming that you've looked at this booklet. So if you need help, ask me about this booklet, look on the VCO website for answers. Okay. All right. Private study for the SAC. Do you have any questions before we get started? Yeah? Yes. Okay. Productive work this week, please.